hundreds of times a day, my body, without any awareness from me, was going into fight or flight mode over and over.
That's when we tend to have foggy thinking, poor performance, rapid aging. Once I learned, honestly say, Dave, I made more personal gain and progress in 3 to 4 months than I did in years of meditation.
Dr. Rollin McCraty is Director of Research at the HeartMath Institute and a pioneer of heart-brain coherence science. His team built a worldwide system that tracks how changes in the Earth's energy affect our bodies, and his research proves you can train your heart in minutes a day to stay calm, think sharper, and handle stress better.
The God helmet.
5 minutes a day, that brains were becoming younger. Resting metabolic rate goes down.
Okay.
When we have higher resonant frequency, it's really about stilling the mind enough that they could finally hear the voice of the heart.
When you learn how to do it, you can hug someone and it'll change them. Bro, and it's incredible work. God, you've taken this field so far.
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
What is heart rate variability?
At its simplest level, heart rate variability is the beat-to-beat time change between each pair of heartbeats.
Okay.
So the heart does not beat like a metronome. Okay, actually used to be thought that was a sign of good health.
Right.
Not that many years ago. It's completely wrong.
Wow.
A sign of good health, of resilience, and our ability to self-regulate has to do with how much of this variation that goes on in the time intervals between each pair of heartbeats. So at one level, it's really simple. The beat-to-beat change in heart rate. So we all know what heart rate is, right? Mm-hmm. How many times did the heart beat in a minute? But that's very different, right? That's just average. When you look closely, you see that the time between each pair of heartbeats is always different. And that measuring that time interval is what heart rate variability, it's what HRV is. Keep it short. Now, in reality, you can spend an entire career. I've been studying HRV for 30 years.
Wow.
So it's very simple on one level, but it's so deep and so much that it tells us about what's going on in the body once you understand what's under the hood of that, what creates heart rate variability. Now, go ahead. It looks like you had another question.
Yeah. Sometime in the early aughts, I became a certified HeartMath trainer, and then I became an advisor to the company for a while. And I've worked for years in biohacking to explain what you just said. And where I ended up, and I want you to shoot holes in this, was you can think about 60 beats a minute. It's like da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. But if you had all 60 beats in the first second, that would be weird, but it would still be 60 beats per minute.
Right.
So, 60 beats per minute doesn't really mean anything. It's just a big average. And what you're really studying is kind of like the music that's played by the heartbeat.
Perfect analogy, because HRV is ultimately what gives rise to the heart rhythm. Because and this is where a lot of people really don't understand the deeper aspects of HRV. It's really about the study of rhythm. Rhythm is everything. Rhythm has everything to do with what we call how coherent is the correlated behavior within our body systems. Now, you used a music example. It was perfect, Dave, because if you think of the heart and the heart's rhythm as the conductor of everything going on in our physiology, right? If the conductor gets frantic and frustrated and, right, the music becomes discordant and chaotic, right?
Absolutely. If the drummer's off, everything.
So it's the same thing. Now, within HRV, there are multiple rhythms.
Oh, so you have two drummers, or at least one drummer with two drums.
I have more like 4 drummers.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and with different sources in the body. So, and most of the apps that are out there are measuring one little baby part, and not even measuring the rhythm. They're just measuring, think of it this way, think of waves. So you've got the amplitude of a wave, and that's what it's called time domain statistics. Okay. Trying to get out how much variation up and down was, but it tells you nothing about it. Is it choppy seas or a coherent wave that has aligned energy? You follow what I mean?
So you could have the same energy, say, at the beach, but if it's a bunch of choppy waves that are small but rapid and not even rhythmic, the amount of water moving could be the same as those big, beautiful waves that come in frequently.
Exactly, yeah. And choppy seas is not good, right? That's when we tend to have foggy thinking, poor performance, rapid aging, messed up relationships, and really the inability to maintain our composure. I would say when the blanks hit in the fan. I guess I can say that here, but
yeah, sure. Yeah. Anything you want.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's 4 drummers and that are controlling the rhythm of your biology, you can see why this might be relevant for biohacking.
Totally.
Right? Because we're talking about things like vagal tone. We've had multiple episodes talking about sympathetic and parasympathetic, and this is tied to that. All of the episodes about cognitive function, even some of the 40 years of Zen stuff, directly tied into these tremors. So when I look at my Aura ring, for instance, that's a measure. That morning readiness score is a measure of heart rate variability, but it's not all 4 drummers. It's just like the big bass drum, essentially.
It's actually the smallest of the drummers.
It's the snare. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe it might help just to see what the rhythms are.
Yeah, what are they?
So the fastest rhythm is breathing.
Okay.
And that's what is vagal tone. That's actually that's even the wrong term.
But we only breathe 13 times a minute. That's not the fastest.
Well, that's a fast rhythm.
Okay.
From an HRV perspective.
Okay,
and that's measured in what's called typically the statistical – God, I can't talk today. The statistical measure is called RMSSD, and it's a complex statistical term that tries to find the changes in the beat-to-beat variability that are bigger than other ones.
Okay.
Because that's vaguely mediated.
So you find the big changes, like the big pauses.
Yeah, the ones that are the fast fibers in the vagus. Now, that's the fastest rhythm, and that's what Aura Ring and others measure as well, especially during sleep, because you can only measure it while you're at rest. Okay. And it's a good measure, but it's not the big game. Okay, well, let me back up a little bit. So if we look at heart rate to begin with, Dave. So, we've got a daytime heart rate and a nighttime heart rate.
Okay.
Now, we've done thousands of these recordings over the years. So if you look at daytime heart rate, it's up here and around. You exercise some up, but when you go to sleep, if you're doing like you do, heart rate should drop immediately down to your nighttime heart rate.
Right.
And stay down, kind of wiggly, and then pop right up right before you wake up.
Correct. Unless you have a big meal before bed, then I won't do that.
Okay, so that's, as it turns out, I'm going to get ahead of myself. I'm not careful here. One of the best indicators of expending too much energy that day or the day before, that could be physical energy, you overexpended too much workout, or you had a lot of emotional crap going on.
Yep.
Frustration, anxiety, triggering over the little stuff.
Yeah.
The way that actually shows up actually isn't really in RMSSD as much as people think.
Okay.
What you see when you look at the heart rate, daytime, blah, blah, blah. Now, instead of dropping down, it goes takes about 4 hours to get down to nighttime level. Okay. That's your best indicator.
So then you're overtrained.
You're overtrained, or you expend too much emotional energy.
Got it. So too much stress.
The choppy seas energy.
Got it. Okay. So too much stress or too much exercise, which is a form of stress. Yeah. And at least in my Aura Ring and some similar other apps and things I have, they call that late heart rate drop.
Okay.
Right. That's kind of a similar thing.
I call it the downward slope in heart rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
There
Same thing. Yeah.
And what are the other 2 rhythms in the heart?
Okay. So that's the breathing related. It's your vagal activity rhythm, how it's measured. Then you've got a slower rhythm, which is where the coherence frequency shows up, which is we all have a literal resonant frequency.
Is it the same for all of us, or is it different?
No, but in fact, I just published a paper a couple of months ago.
Hey, tell me.
1.8 million biofeedback sessions of people being coherent globally.
Okay, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's the dominant or the center of the bell curve is 0.1 hertz.
Okay.
In frequency language, or a 10-second rhythm.
And so what's happening every 10 seconds of my heartbeat?
Well, your heart rate's going up and down in this beautiful sine wave.
Wow.
Okay,
that's going to be invisible on an Aura or something.
Oh, yeah, you don't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Now,
and that's what you pay attention to, though, in the HeartMath app.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that is a rhythm that's actually generated between the heart and brain. Now, breathing, you can breathe at that pace and help coax the system into what we call a coherent state. So now the conductor is getting everything working together harmoniously, and that's what maximizes our optimal function, really.
That is actually the clearest explanation I've ever heard on the difference between the sleep monitoring heart rate variability and what HeartMath does. Yeah. And I'm going to skip a couple steps here and describe what happens with heart rate variability training.
Perfect.
And I can do this because, I learned how to do it from you. But I'll translate it just because listeners know the way I communicate. So when you're doing the latest HeartMath app with the Coherence Plus sensor, it's a little thing you clip on your ear. It's not like wearing an Oura ring. Your ring is tracking long things over time.
During sleep, mainly.
Yeah, during sleep and a little bit during the day, but not heart rate variability. And you can think of it like this. At the end of the week, some AI system analyzes your calendar and says, every Friday you buy beer and diapers. And you're like, wow, I never knew that about myself. Maybe next Friday I won't do that. It's of some value because it lets you think about what you did and maybe change something. With real-time feedback, what's happening is every second you're saying, am I doing this or am I not doing this? So you're looking at your phone and you're trying to make the light turn green and you're breathing in and out according to rhythm. But what the heck do you do to make the light turn green? There really aren't words for it, which is why it's really hard to teach meditation. And you sit in a monastery somewhere in some odd pose with your hands here and you're doing this and doing that. And you're just trying to learn how to reach these inner states. But when you sit there frustrated for a little while until you figure out what to do with your inner control system to make the light turn green, when you do that, you have created the coherence you're talking about. Right? And that's the difference between real-time training. We're teaching you a new state. Right. And we're teaching you what it feels like to be in the state and out of the state.
And how to shift into that state at will.
That changed my life.
Yeah, when you need to, because that's the problem. It's when we get triggered. Or we hit the stressors, the challenges that we don't have the experience maybe to meet, or we don't have the confidence. That's when we tend to, the conductor goes walkie and we get into discord and then we do stupid things, right? Wow. You follow what I'm saying? So, and with coherence training, Dave, it's 5 minutes a day.
It doesn't take much time.
It doesn't take much time, but you do that over time. We are literally, and we can prove this scientifically, creating a new, what we call baseline in our physiology, in our brain, in our nervous system. So that state is more our new natural state. So when we hit the bigger things, it's much easier to go there.
What I learned from you came and you spoke at the longevity nonprofit group at the time. Now it's called Silicon Valley Health Institute, but you came and you spoke and I was blown away. I'm like, this guy's an engineer. He knows stuff. So I went and I bought a HeartMath thing. It was much more expensive back then. And I started doing this training and I learned within about a month that hundreds of times a day, my body, without any awareness from me, was going into fight or flight mode over and over. And once I got really good at HeartMath, I would notice it. And then I would say, why? And then I would kind of play whack-a-mole with my nervous system to put it back into shape. And that was foundational to a lot of the meditation training I've done and a lot of the other spiritual work is that I gained awareness of my inner state. And I look at heart rate variability as kind of the entry level to neurofeedback. They're both biofeedback. One is based on the heart, one is based on the brain, but the heart stuff is very accessible and it's easy to do. And you are the leading voice in that whole industry.
Yeah. You can focus on the brain and brain waves. Been there, done that. But in reality, the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. It's the master rhythm. It's the rhythm maker. And when you get in the heart into the coherent rhythm, those neural signals go directly to the thalamus, right core of our brain, which is responsible for globally synchronizing the electrical activity in the entire brain.
You can definitely synchronize the brain with HeartMath, 100%.
And that is the quickest, fastest way to, you can say it, get in sync, because that's really what it is. And that's what underlies all the different brain systems' ability to perform optimally.
How many hours have you had HeartMath tech connected to your brain?
I have no idea. Well, to my earlobe.
To your earlobe,
or my chest. I have no idea.
Just guess.
It would be in probably thousands.
More than thousands, I would imagine. It's probably at 10,000 at this point.
I have no idea.
You might be one of the more measured people out there. What I found, though, is that if I did 20 minutes of training with HeartMath tech every day for 6 weeks to 2 months, that I felt like I had a pretty good sense of where I was and that I didn't have to use the tech in order to re-regulate myself.
Right. That's the whole point. You're retraining, you're training your system, training your nervous system into that new baseline state of coherence. Because Because this is really about navigating day-to-day life with more composure, right? Being able to flow through, not trigger over the small stuff, or even the big stuff eventually with practice. Because all that does is waste energy.
Man, we're so in alignment on that and heavily meditated. The point is, if someone can trigger you, it means you're carrying a loaded gun and their finger is on your trigger.
Yeah,
and nobody wants that. So if you can go in and regulate your sympathetic fight or flight response by learning this technique, and it's not just take a deep breath. In fact, I remember I gave my kids a sensor when they were little, and I called it the Magic Fairy Breathing Game because they were pretty little. And it's just HeartMath. And I watched my son go, he say, take a deep breath to most little kids, and they go, they don't even know what a deep breath is. But because he had done the training, and of course, he made the light turn green, take a deep breath, he'd go. And I was so impressed. But that's the power of this, because even for kids, they want to regulate. They just don't know how. And then we're adults. We think we know how. We just learn how to think about it and behave, but we never learned how to regulate.
Yeah. And we forget to do it in the times that count the most.
Yeah. Why do we forget?
Well, called cortical inhibition is the technical term for it. When we're in that choppy seas state, our inner systems are out of sync. The frontal cortex, which really begins the self-regulation process, is literally taken offline until we retrain to that new state.
All right. I want to get a little bit mystical with you.
All right.
And I would consider you to be one of the leaders in the science of consciousness at this point in your career. I mean, you've studied this for a very long time and done some cool stuff, some of which you probably talk about, some of which you don't. But I learned before I go on a big stage to go into a state of coherence. And I learned that state of coherence from using my HeartMath stuff years ago. So before I went on to Tony Robbins' main stage one time, in fact, the first time. So this was my biggest audience. It was like 15,000 people at the time. So I'm backstage, and it just takes a couple seconds when you know how to do it. And you go in and you change your state. And I'm supposed to walk out after my sizzle reel plays. Introducing Dave Asprey. The team forgets to play my sizzle reel. I go, okay, Dave, come on out. And so I walked out. 0 change in my heart rate. I was already regulated. It didn't bother me in the slightest. And I got a standing ovation. It was a very popular talk. But I learned if I'm regulated when I go on stage or even before I do an interview, it feels like the audience regulates better too.
Absolutely.
Can you measure that?
Yes, I think we can.
Okay, have you?
In certain ways. That's actually an area of active research where we're measuring, really it's heart-to-heart synchronization in groups.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, this is getting real wide, probably not where I should be going in this podcast, but we just published this too. The first study I was talking about, 1.8 million people, right? We also, those 1.8 million, we had emotion reports.
Oh, wow. What a data set.
It was awesome, because what this study proved is that when we're feeling anxious, fearful, frustrated, impatient, that basically messes with the rhythms, right? So smooth internal rhythms become choppy seas, right? And we don't feel good, and we don't think well, and we don't sleep well, and it's aging us faster, right? Whereas when people were feeling things like calm, patience, inner stillness, these type of feelings, that created more stability in the inner rhythms, right? Okay, so in a couple of weeks, amazing, we had 2 publications in a Nature journal, scientific reports, This one we were looking at long-term HRV over 15 days continuous in 5 groups of people, 20 people in each group, 100 people around the world, 5 different countries. And what we found, I'm going to make a long story short, was in the two of the groups out of the 5, their heart rhythms were synchronized across the 15 days.
Wow.
And they're going about their normal days.
There's 20 people all in a group, and they're just doing their lives, but they're synchronized.
Yeah, in the same areas. The 2 groups that were synchronized were the 2 groups that knew each other well and liked each other.
Wow.
They had created that social heart connection with each other.
So you want to be friends with well-regulated people, not with chaotic people.
Right. But what this shows us is that when we really form relationships that are meaningful to us, that we are forming a group level field.
Wow.
Remember I was saying there's multiple rhythms in HRV, because HRV is really the study of rhythm. Multiple rhythms. So we've got the fast stuff, breathing, and the heart-brain resonant frequency, But then we have another rhythm called the VLF rhythm. Now, that's the granddaddy.
Very low frequency.
That is the most important one for predicting future health and resilience. It's not the vagal stuff. That actually has very little to do with predicting future health. The VLF is correlated. If that's low, all-cause mortality.
So if
dying from any reason. Right?
So 0.1.
That's much faster. VLF is a 5-minute rhythm.
Got it. So just to differentiate between them. So there's a 10-second rhythm, which is 0.1.
Which is a very fundamental rhythm for heart-brain synchrony.
Okay, that's the synchrony connection between heart-brain. And the one you're talking about, the 5-minute rhythm, what's the hertz in that? That's like 0.0.
00 something, I forget.
Yeah, it's a
5-minute rhythm.
Yeah, 5-minute rhythm, okay.
Then there's again a lower rhythm. That we would know it's circadian rhythm. It's a 24-hour rhythm.
Of your heart rate, okay.
That's also in HRV. Remember I said you can spend a lifetime. There's even a lower frequency rhythm.
There's always going to be octaves there. What's the lower frequency?
Well, it can vary. One of our studies showed in one group it was about 2.5 days.
Okay.
Some studies show can be even a weekly rhythm. And this is the rhythm where we tune in and synchronize to the activity going on in the Earth's fields.
Wow.
Which we're
2.5 to 5 days, and we're not sure yet. Or maybe it varies by person.
It depends on what's going on in the environment and us.
Okay.
Now, we're just completing an analysis of almost 10 million sessions over 7 years globally, where we also have a system measuring the planetary frequencies. And this study is showing so clear, Dave, is that when people practice coherence, they're not as affected by the external environment.
You want to be in charge of yourself. You might want to learn how to be coherent.
Whether it's the solar flare stuff, solar, or it's just you're in a noisy city and it's driving you crazy, you can still go in and maintain that inner composure. Okay. Following up?
I think you just dysregulated some skeptics when you talked about solar flares. So I want to talk about that for a second. That's all right. Dysregulating skeptics is great fun. I mean, we can all do that. And by the way, if you're a skeptic and you're like, well, dude, we just told you that if we can trigger you, you're a loaded gun and we're in charge of you. And now you're even more triggered, and that's okay. But you should probably work on that. So
skeptic of what, though?
Well, there's just people who are saying, I have a model of reality that I believe, and I just heard something that is outside my model, therefore I don't feel safe. They don't know that's why.
My version of that is don't confuse me with the data.
Oh, yeah.
Mind is made up.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, that's the WHO? Wait, did I say that out loud? So, space weather. In Heavily Meditated, I wrote about space weather because it has a direct effect on human consciousness. And one of the pieces of tech that I shared is called the God helmet, which is Persinger's God helmet, right? Of course, you know about this.
Yeah,
and
I knew Persinger. So
okay, cool. Yeah. And I know Todd, who took on Persinger's work, and Todd Murphy. So I was talking with him on the phone, and he said, Dave, if you really want to use the helmet that changes your brain state with subtle magnets at the right and get the best results, you have to check the space weather and do it when it's not too calm and not too stormy. And so you go to spaceweather.com, and sure enough, it's a thing, and it's actual real data. And the fact that you may not know that it affects your consciousness has nothing to do with whether or not it changes your consciousness. It does, and it's provable, right?
Yeah. 10 million sessions over 7 years.
So what did you find when you studied space weather?
Well, we actually have a lot of publications in this field. Some people think of it as a paradox because the background geomagnetic fields we live in. So let me make this as short as I can. So you got the geomagnetic field, right? The field, north-south pole, these field lines, magnetic field lines around the Earth. Well, here's the wild thing. Magnetic field lines act like guitar strings. You can pluck them.
Yeah, they change.
No, well, you pluck them and they vibrate.
And the government plucks them with the HARP project up in Alaska.
Nah, that's nonsense.
Is it really?
That is.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Solar winds plucking the strings. Okay. Earth is turning, solar winds rushing by at 1 million miles an hour plucking the strings. The primary resonant frequency, they're called field line resonances. Guess what? 0.1 hertz.
Oh, so we're attuned to 0.1 hertz, and then solar winds changes that, and then we change unless we're well regulated.
Okay, so this is on normal, quiet days.
Right.
Normal days. And then you got the Schumann resonances, which a lot of people get way wrong, which overlap brain waves. They're very stable. are the same frequency they were when they first measured in 1959.
So when everyone says it's changing, they're lying. They're not lying. They're mistaken. Yeah.
They don't know the science. We have a global magnetometer, a super sensitive system globally measuring these things for years.
So if you ever saw Lost, they had these weird monitoring stations buried. Rollin, you actually built these. You have a network of monitoring stations buried in the earth all over the planet that gets data you can't get from satellites. So when you're saying this, people need to know that's the extent you went through to get this hard data.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
We have the only global, time synchronized, GPS synchronized, calibrated global magnetic monitoring system in the world.
I'm going to believe your data.
Yeah, I mean, we share it with MIT, global groups there, a lot of people like our data. The point I'm trying to make here is, though, that in the Earth's fields, the vibrations, we probably have the rhythms we do because we evolved in the frequency of the Earth.
Of course.
Again, rhythms, right? So those fields act as synchronizing signals.
Wow.
That we tune to, unless we get stressed.
So that 5-day signal?
Yeah, there's all these rhythms in HRV.
And they're all planetary.
Well, no, you have the planetary one's the lowest frequency.
Okay.
Then you've got the circadian, the day-night.
Okay.
That's a fundamental rhythm. Then you've got these faster rhythms. Wow. That's all reflected in HRV.
Incredible. So you really are kind of a picture of the environment you're in.
Yeah, so we did a study. This was published last year. The same 5 groups I was talking about, the primary study, where we're continuously measuring HRV. In the middle of that 15-day period, we had all of the 100 and some people do what we call a heart lock-in. It's a heart-focused meditation for 15 minutes, using the technology. They've been practicing to get coherent. They did that for 15 minutes together. Guess what happened? Well, of course, their coherence went off the roof while they were doing that. The members within all the groups were significantly more in sync with each other during that exercise. The total shocker came, though, that every single group, all 5, were significantly more in sync with the Earth's rhythms for the next 24 hours. So just getting ourselves coherent for 15 minutes synchronizes our own system, right? We're doing a lot of benefits for us, right? Mentally, emotionally, physically.
Do you want to be synchronized with Earth's rhythms? Earth seems like it's kind of screwed up right now.
No, the magnetic rhythms, you do. It's synchronizing. That's what keeps us in sync. Unless we're too stressed out.
What if there's something else messing with local magnetic stuff, that's like the power grid or 5G or any of there are focused magnetic interventions. I have some downstairs that will change your biology.
Those are completely different frequencies than what we're talking about.
All right, so you have to worry about that.
Fundamental life protecting rhythms.
Okay. You couldn't make a bad one of those and play it for people?
I suppose you could, but
if you could, someone would. I'm a little worried about that.
There's just I'm trying to get to the paradox, right?
All right.
Because there's hundreds of papers on this in the scientific literature. We know that being in sync is a good thing, and resting metabolic rate goes down when we have higher resonant frequencies.
I'll accept that. Right.
In other words, the body is literally measurably using less energy for life processes.
Lovely. Okay.
Made a couple studies on this now. My name's on too.
Love it. Okay.
But anyway, it's when we get stressed out, we're the frustrations, the anxieties, worrying over the small stuff, the looping thoughts, that takes us out of sync, not only within our own body and system, but with the rhythms of the Earth and with other people.
Wow. All right. So you get disconnected from your community.
So just getting in sync for a few minutes, synchronized across all those scales.
Wow.
Follow what I'm going there, right?
Yes.
So it's now the paradox is there's a whole bunch of other studies that show that the magnetic field is like this harmful thing. But now it's not a paradox when you understand it. These are all studies that show that when there's this thing called KP index, which is a measure of field disturbance, right? Okay. So every now and then, it's actually not that often, Earth gets hits with this big wave of plasma from the sun that's called a solar flare.
Right.
Hits the field of the Earth, which protects us, and it goes all wobbly.
Right. And then we all act weird.
And we have more hospital admissions. We have more mental health issues.
More revolutions.
Exactly. People get pissed off, triggered faster, during those periods. So in other words, we don't like being out of sync with our natural environment.
Wow. So some studies show that being aligned or in resonance with the Earth is good for you, which is true. And when it's when it's not good for you, it's because the field itself is disturbed externally.
And the study we're getting ready to publish right now with 10 million sessions shows that when we practice coherence, we don't get dysregulated in disturbed times.
So you can literally be solar flare proof with HeartMath?
Yeah. I mean,
That's so cool.
10 million sessions over 7 years.
This is a superpower if there ever was one.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be doing this. And it's not Dave.
I actually agree with that. If they put this as a standard part of high school curriculum, it would completely change the world.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a big thing. What are the implications for friend groups? So let's say that I want to be more in coherence with my core group of good people friends.
Yeah.
What would I do?
Well, one of the easiest things is practice being coherent together at the same time.
So we all get a HeartMath and we all sit down in a room and do that.
Yeah, and just do that regularly until you, like the other study that I thought might have been too wide, really isn't now, because that's where you're building that group field that is non-locally, energetically connecting those group members.
Wow.
So we're literally sharing energy and information across the group.
Well, what if we all just did breath work together? Because not everyone has a HeartMath sensor.
Yeah, you can do breath work. You can do breath work.
Probably not the same.
Well, okay, we all have to breathe.
Yeah.
Right? So I say this a lot. You have to breathe anyway. Right? I mean,
point.
you really don't have to take time out of your day, but if you put more attention to the breath. So if we call it heart-focused breathing.
Yep.
Because there is a big energetic component to this work.
Of course.
It's not just about the mechanics of breathing. So heart-focused breathing, pretend you're breathing right through the center of your chest. Breathe slower and deeper. Breathe at your own natural resonant frequency, which for the majority is going to be a 10-second rhythm, 5 in, 5 out.
Yep.
Now, we did find in that other big study I was talking that as people get better at this, they start breathing a little slower, and coherence increases.
Do you want to pause at the top or bottom at all?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not a fan of box breathing. I know the source of that, but that's another story.
Okay.
Because that takes you out of coherence. Most people will take out of coherence.
Interesting.
Because the coherent heart rhythm is a sine wave. It's not a square wave.
It's definitely not a square wave. I recommend box breathing because it does take people out of anxiety, but it doesn't take them into coherence. There might be
so will heart-focused breathing take you out of anxiety.
if they know it.
Yeah.
The problem is if I have an audience who doesn't know heart-focused breathing and they're anxious, I can teach them box breathing in 1 second.
You can also teach them heart-focused breathing, Dave.
Not as quickly.
Yes, sure you can.
Really? So people...
Breathe 5 seconds in, breathe 5 seconds out.
So when I do that and I'm hooked up to my HeartMath sensor, the light does not turn green unless you do something else. It's the something else that's hard to teach.
Well, actually, you for most people, you can breathe yourself into I'll say the lower levels of coherence
When they're anxious.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I've done.
I'm believing you. You're a very credible guy.
We have 30,000 healthcare professionals that are certified teaching this to patients every day.
Yeah, so. You're very credible.
Yeah.
Okay. What about breathing out twice as long as the in breath?
Okay, so that can be useful if you're trying to slow heart rate.
Yeah.
If you've done a workout and heart rate's high and you're
People are stressed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that because the mechanism there for people that want to understand how breathing modulates heart rhythm. You don't have to measure breath, by the way, to know we know exactly how someone's breathing, the frequency and depth just from looking at their HRV.
Correct. Yeah.
So when there are neurons in the lungs, or called mechanoreceptive neurons, they're stress sensitive. We breathe in. So when we breathe in, those neurons get stretched. They increase their firing rate. They go up certain vagus nerve fibers, 3,000 of neural fibers in the vagus, right?
200,000.
Yeah. So they connect in at the cardiovascular respiratory integration center, and they modulate, think of it like a rheostat. They turn down vagal flow going to the heart.
Wow.
So heart rate goes up when you breathe in. Breathe out, the rheostat gets turned the other way. You restore that vagal outflow. Heart rate goes down. That's why breathing at 0.1 hertz helps coax our system into coherence.
Wow.
Now, so for new people, that can feel uncomfortable because they don't have an inner reference for it yet. That's a whole other story, but stay with it and it'll become comfortable. That's that new baseline.
Okay.
Now, you asked about, so if you understand that and you're trying to slow heart rate because it's heart high, breathe in, then breathe out slower, right? So that can help you slow heart rate. You can do the opposite if you need to increase heart rate. You're getting ready to go on stage. You're getting ready to play a sport. You want a higher heart rate.
So then you would longer in-breath and shorter out-breath.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just knowing the mechanics. Maybe not quite that exaggerated, but yeah.
That's going to raise your heart rate pretty fast.
Yeah, but you get the drift.
Right.
But if we're really trying to get in sync, get coherent, get our hormonal system, right, our immune system, our nervous system, emotional system working together in harmony, that's where we want to get the master conductor creating a stable synchronization signal for all those systems. And that's what heart coherence is.
At this point in your life, are you always practicing heart breathing?
No.
What percentage of your breaths are?
Well, I've done this for long enough. It's a baseline.
It's just so you are. You don't have to try.
Yeah,
it's
and that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes a day for just a few weeks. We've shown this. Create. I mean, this is not metaphor. It's
happened
science,
to me.
Right?
Yeah,
you create
it's real.
This new baseline. In fact, I was just talking. I have to remember his name. A biohacker is doing a self-experiment now.
Oh God, there's so many of us.
I know. I had a conversation with him and I explained about the technology. It's not just about breathing. Mm-hmm. This is about self-regulation. And he goes, okay, I'm going to try it. I just had last week, he called me, sent me an email, and we talked. And he's just sharing with me how transformed his life is.
Oh, good for you, Rollin.
I mean,
that's why you were at the first biohacking conference. This is foundational.
And he's measuring all this stuff that, what I explained to him that I think got him motivated was when we think of emotions, and especially us men tend to not want to think about emotions a lot.
You're supposed to feel about them, not think about them.
Yeah, right. Well, it's the emotional system, and it is a system, runs the show.
Absolutely.
It is what controls our longevity, our healthy aging.
Your memories, everything.
Everything. I'm sorry, guys, it's what runs the show. Mm-hmm. And it's a really complex system.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's the biochemical level, and you can get lost in this hormone begot that hormone.
That one's easy. Yeah.
Just being angry for 5 minutes, you set in motion thousands of biochemical changes.
And take some heroin, and they'll take that right away, right?
Yeah. Well, you get my drift. So
it's easy to hack.
There's the biochemical level.
Yeah, but it's easy to hack.
Yeah, but then, so if you talk like Candace Parrott was a friend of mine, you probably remember her.
Oh, yeah, Candace
is
amazing.
Molecules of Emotion.
Yeah, great book.
And it's all true. However, she's right. But then you talk to a neuroscientist. Mm-hmm. No, it's all about the brain and nervous system.
Yep.
Which set in motion the biochemistry. Unless you're, taking a drug or a chemical.
They're simultaneously right, depending on which lens you're using.
Right. But I'm going to add just another even more important system.
Magnetic?
Energetic.
Okay. Is that quantum or is that information?
Well, it's informational ultimately, but it's,
okay.
It would include the biofield and the magnetic and that's what we're in HeartMath teaching people to become more aware of. Because emotion happens first energetically.
Yes.
Then we can measure changes in brain waves and neural activity, and that's then reflected in HRV, which is your master signal, outplay of that, and then you have all the biochemistry that follows suit.
I love it.
Right. Now, you're talking about biohacking. This is what people need to understand. Is this is a complex system that runs the show. And coherence is the doorway in to bringing alignment across those systems.
The picture that always comes to mind when I'm thinking about this, if you're getting on a really big airplane and the cockpit's open and you look in there and you're like, there are an enormous number of knobs and switches and dials and levers, and how would I ever figure out what each one of these things does? Mm-hmm. It's even more complex than that. And we don't have any instrumentation. And we don't even know how to open the door to the cockpit. And when you look in there, there's a lot to learn here. Mm-hmm. And you just put it so beautifully. If you're in coherence, you have awareness of all those things. You can start looking at each dial and knob and figuring out how to control yourself.
Yeah. And then, this reminds me, I was at a conference, a couple of years in a row, one of my favorite conferences ever in Switzerland. This invitation only, this is probably 30 years ago at the very beginning of my career. I mean, the people I looked up to then, very famous people, in the psychophysiology world, and a lot of them became mentors. I've had a lot of
It's like Timothy Leary types or more like hardcore neuro guys?
More like Paul Roche, the founder of the American Institute of Stress. And
luminaries in the field.
Luminaries in the field.
Okay.
And these guys were getting up and they were saying back then, 30-some years ago, we're starting to know more about the biochemistry and the the hormones and then this and then that. Said, and this was the warning, even back then, says, don't get lost in the minutia of all of what begot what. We're forgetting what drives all of it to begin with.
Which is?
Consciousness and our emotions.
100%.
Right? So I find myself now, an older guy, right, saying the same thing. Because it's so easy to get lost in reading labels. Not that that's not important.
Yeah. I mean, cyanide will tell you what's important.
Yeah. But you know what I'm trying to say? I mean, yes, of course, nutrition is important. Good sleep is important. Right? Having clean water, all that's important. But maintaining our emotional system into coherence, I'm going to say is even more important.
I would agree it's more important. And the reason that I rolled biohacking out to society this way is because I found that when people have enough mitochondrial energy, their ability to self-regulate and learn these techniques goes up so much.
Of course it does.
Like it's hard for me to be regulated, or I don't think I could have been regulated when I was 25 if I didn't have a meal every 5 hours, or sorry, every 5 minutes.
They're all interacting systems. So of course we have to have the physical.
Regulation matters most, to your point.
But a lot of times we don't have the energy to self-regulate because we haven't managed our energy systems.
Very well put.
And we get depleted. And this is
everybody feels that or knows that feeling.
I had a great example of this when we developed the resilience training for the U.S. Navy. I personally trained about 5,000 men and women on the highest risk mission at that time of anything in the military. And what they, I know you talk a lot about sleep. They had found that the most correlated thing to stress injury, as they called it, right? Trauma, PTSD, anxiety disorders, was sleep disruption.
Yeah.
And then I gave him the missing answer to why that's true. Because if we don't get enough sleep, that's our main way of recharging our inner battery, think of it. And when we get depleted, our energy systems get depleted, right down to the mitochondria, as you would say, we don't have the energy to self-regulate.
Correct.
So we go in a downward spiral. But in their case, what was depleting the battery to begin with was the lack of self-regulation. Follow where I'm going? So it's...
so you have lack of self-regulation, maybe some PTSD in there. You're not going to be able to sleep, which makes you get worse, which makes you less regulated.
So it's a downward spiral.
So do you fix the sleep or do you fix the heart coherence?
Well, we fix the heart coherence.
And then that fixes
the sleep. They all got a device. Well, this is... I probably say this because it was presented at a conference publicly at one of the Navy conferences. I won't go into detail here, but the group we were working with on the mission... that they hit the historical data that it was a year-long deployment. 3 months into the deployment, 80% of these men and women were on a prescription sleep medication.
Dang.
80%, 3 months. Now, this was over a 5-year period we were working with them, and we worked a lot on sustainability, on how you can teach this stuff, but you got to stay with it long enough, right? So they were in a very high-stress environment. Bottom line, the last 2 deployment cycles that we were tracking, I had to access this through BuMed, less than 5% were on a prescription sleep med for the entire year.
Wow. So you completely destroyed the sleep med industry in the rough environment.
They all had to train HRV coherence training devices. They all got one issue.
And how much training do they have to do to make it happen?
It wasn't a lot. We had a half-day training with them before they deployed. But the key that turned everything around was when we developed a secondary training that was taught downrange when they got deployed. And we call them resilience mentors in that case. Wow. But these were your basically coaches that were reminding you to get coherent before you go on shift. Now shift and reset, get back to coherent when an incident happened that major triggers.
Wow.
Get you reset quick. That was the simple stuff.
Because you're not going to really remember if you're that triggered. But if someone sits down and says, all right, do the thing, and then you do the thing, and then it doesn't stick, right?
Yeah.
Wow, imagine how important that is.
Yeah, so basically it was really simple how we sustained it. Every day before they would go on shift, these were like squad leader level mentors, right? All right, we're going to take 2 minutes and get coherent together before we go into the stressful situation.
That is remarkable.
Yeah.
You're reminding me, back when I started my old company, Bulletproof, and I got nothing to do with Bulletproof anymore. I'm all about danger these days. But I used to have, I bought a HeartMath for all my execs, and I had them all do it, and then I would work to start the meetings, and some were more resistant than others, but the diehard people who are most successful would do it. Yeah, I should do that again.
You should. There's some awesome new research on coherence training. And coherence training, remember, it's HRV, but it's looking at not just the amplitude, but the stability of the rhythm. It's really
this is really important. So when we say amplitude, non-engineers, it's the volume. It's the height of the wave. Exactly.
But the wave can be totally choppy and have a high amplitude.
You can have big, crappy waves that are unsurfable or regular, beautiful waves that are surfable.
When you're triggered.
Yeah.
Right. So these are studies done at USC, really well funded, mostly fMRI studies.
Okay.
And what they've shown, the recent study, the most recent one, I'm just almost finished reading the paper, showed that the vascular system to the brain, after coherence training, that brains were becoming younger.
That would make so much sense.
Yeah. So, but prior to that, the same group, and this was 4 weeks of regular practice with the HRV coherence technology, HeartMath technology, significantly reduced levels of amyloid beta and tau, primary biomarkers for Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. 2 of their other studies showed significantly greater white matter in the frontal cortex.
Wow.
Increased functional connectivity between the frontal cortex and the amygdala, the very circuit we need for self-regulation, for staying in composure.
Wow.
Right? Increased resting state HRV.
So everything got better.
Everything. It's the tide that lifts all boats.
Wow.
Does that make, these are hardcore, well-published, controlled studies.
The total investment of time to get to this state, you're saying 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes a day.
It's a little bit more than that, like 10 minutes.
Well, 10 minutes is better.
Got it. I always coach people to do 20 minutes, but let's say that we have a listener who says, all right, I'll pick up my HeartMath.
Okay. I would start with 5 minutes a day for the first week.
In the morning or at night?
Ideally both.
Well, that 2.5 minutes each?
I mean, if I gave an idea of what I do, is I start my morning. First thing I get out and go for a walk, get the system, because just getting your system warmed up actually increases your HRV a little bit.
So you go for a walk.
Then I'll get some coherence time in.
5 minutes.
I'll do a morning, I call it heart lock in, just to set the tone for the day. So I'm starting out in that more coherent, balanced, aligned perspective.
So someone who's completely new to HeartMath, they're going to get their device. The next morning they're going to get up, go for a short walk, come back.
That's what I do. I mean, whatever.
So let's tell them what to do. So
and then before bed, get coherent again for say 5 minutes.
Okay, so it's really 10 minutes a day.
I'm saying that's me.
Okay, well, I'm not worried about you right now. I'm worried about, I'm 20 years old. I'm totally freaking out. That guy. 5 minutes before, when you first get up, 5 minutes before you go to bed. Okay.
Then, second week, take it to 10 minutes.
There you go. Okay, and we get to our 20 minutes a day.
And third week, 15.
Okay. And you also make it harder each week because you can change the settings from 1 to 4.
You can, but it's more important rather than trying just to keep going for a higher coherence score is to really be able to sustain it. Now, so what I really recommend to people, once you get to where you can get in the green, right, or have a high coherence score number, 5, whatever it might be for you at the individual level, great. Now, here's the bigger game. Can you maintain that coherence when you're having a phone call?
That's amazing.
Can you maintain that coherence when you're in a traffic jam? Literally. Because this is what this is about. It's how do we navigate more coherently day-to-day life without the triggers, without the stressors. And this is what slows the aging process. This is what our studies show changes the biochemistry, where we have higher DHEA, lower cortisol, better immunity. These are as you know, you're better than anybody, the biomarkers of aging.
Wow.
Right?
One of my favorite heart rate variability stories as a coach and a biohacker was a hedge fund manager. And I mentioned the tech to him, said, you ought to do this. And he's one of these guys, works out all the time in great shape and runs billions of dollars, is buying an island sort of thing. And he buys the machine and throws it in a desk drawer. And finally says, I got bored. So I was on a long flight. And I said, fine, I'm finally going to do this. And I did it. And I felt the difference. So I made a commitment to do it every day. So after 6 weeks, I could max out at level 4. And I just felt so good. So I went into the office and I put it on, put the little HeartMath sensor on. And then He said the market bell rang. He said, and it turned red, and it stayed red all day no matter what I did. And it took him another 6 weeks of intentionally training his self-regulation while he was trading billions of dollars.
Exactly. Perfect.
And he said, Dave, after that period of time, he said, my trades improved because I wasn't trading in fear. He said, for 20 years, I've been trading in fear all day and I didn't know. And when I go home at the end of the day now, I'm full of energy and I can play with my kids.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what self-regulation looks like.
That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I just heard about your story. Reminds me, I think, of 4 just in the last 2 weeks, either world records or major turnarounds because of coherence training.
Wow.
And I'm horrible with names. IGA, the famous World Cup. I mean, it's one of the Glam Slam tennis trainers. I have to look her name up.
A player or a trainer?
Player.
Is it Bianca?
No, IGA, I think is her name.
IGA, do you guys know that?
Anyway, she's like the top woman tennis player in the world right now. So I just was blown away. I just saw this last week. There's a Rolex commercial featuring her.
Wow.
And it tells her story that I think she's 19, 20 now probably. And she won this Grand Slam and was all, out of kind of the underdog, and then lost the mental game and totally crashed.
Oh no, that happens.
And so her coach, it actually shows her in this Rolex produced film using the coherence trainer.
There you go.
She turned it around, won the next one, and has now become, and she actually credits it. Okay, so
it's so beautiful.
It just goes on and on like this. Just 2 weeks ago, heard about these three guys who set a new world record from rowing a boat from Monterey, California to Hawaii, unassisted, 4,500 miles.
Wow.
Right? And there's a picture of him with the inner balance coherence sensor on.
You have so much more self-control.
Yeah. Well, and longevity. I mean, endurance in this case. Mm-hmm. I mean, anyway.
There's something, I don't think we've ever talked about this part of it, but for dating, if you're a man, especially, and you learn how to do this, and you're going on a first date or a 10th date, doesn't really matter, go into coherence and watch how your date changes, because people will feel safer around you when you're well regulated. They can feel it. And if you take the date home to the bedroom and you practice self-regulation, you will be able to connect at a heart level that is completely different.
Yeah.
And, these are things that are difficult to talk about in research studies. Mm-hmm. But I know that when I learned how to do this, that it did change my dating life and my romantic life. And it's some powerful, powerful technology, and it's not expensive. Yeah. It's what is the current?
I think it's $249, and I'm supposed to mention.
Yeah,
I was told by our folks that there's a special that they can get a 15% discount. /Dave after the
HeartMath.com/Dave, and it'll give you 15% off. Yeah. And you can say, "Oh, Dave's just selling." Guys, I paid to become a certified trainer in this, and I just told you how it changed my life and how it changed my clients' lives. And it's one of the cheapest feedback devices you can get. It's cheaper than an Oura ring, and it'll do more for you than that. That's why I'm talking about it, and I got you 15% off. So there.
Yeah. Well, can you really afford not to be?
That's a fair point. I have some more questions about HRV.
Okay, go.
What does food do to heart rate variability?
Not a lot. And I shouldn't say that. There's not a lot of research. There's some studies. I mean, there's so many studies on HRV now. It's in the probably hundreds of thousands.
Are they good though, or is that all RSSD, which isn't very good?
No, I mean, the real research on HRV goes much deeper than just looking at the vaguely mediated RMSSD, which is just a measure of that doesn't tell you anything about the rhythm or the pattern.
Right.
There are actually, we've stayed pretty surfacey so far, because there's another approach that we actually use in our apps. It's called frequency domain, where we don't look at statistical averages. Mm-hmm. We actually look at the spectrum analysis that look at what are the rhythms.
Right.
Because you've got the breathing rhythm, you've got the heart-brain rhythm, you've got the VLF rhythm, which is generated by the heart, all these other rhythms that you separate out so you can tell what's really going on and what's the coordinated behavior amongst these different internal body systems. That's what coherence is really getting at. I hope, because coherence isn't just breathing.
It's not just breathing. And that's what I I work to explain to people, I can tell you to breathe in and out like every 5 seconds, like you're talking about, and it's
boring fast.
It's boring, and you won't go into coherence.
Yeah, heart focused breathing, and then you start breathing the appropriate attitude for the current times. Breathe a feeling. If you're trying to, I was a meditator for years before I met the founder of HeartMath and got involved. And I could have great meditations and fly around the universe and be disassociated, get in my car and be pissed off and frustrated before I even got to my office. So it didn't really, I got benefit out of it. I don't want to make it.
But it doesn't stick always.
It didn't transfer into day-to-day.
Yeah.
Right. Once I learned heart coherence, I can honestly say, Dave, I made more personal gain and progress in 3 to 4 months than I did in years of meditation. Now, I still meditate. I just do heart-focused meditation.
I think you're onto something there. In terms of changes in your life per minute of work, HeartMath training is far superior to any meditation practice that I know of. And I know a lot of them, and I'm a fan of them, just like you.
Yeah.
They're for different purposes. And a lot of self-meditation, especially for the first decade or so, is not about self-regulation.
But it should be.
It can get there, but it doesn't. That's why I do the neurofeedback side on the meditation front versus the heart rate variability front.
Yeah, I think that I learned many years ago now, and I've had a lot of people tell me this in recent weeks, months, that what they've discovered is that what meditation really has been about for them, but they didn't know until recently. But it's really about stilling the mind enough that they could finally hear the voice of the heart.
Well said. Yeah, when your mind shuts the hell up and the voice in your head goes away from whatever practice, you might be able to pay attention to that signal a little bit better.
Yeah, so when you're doing the heart-focused breathing, breathe a feeling. I've turned a few friends onto this, and they come back and said, God, I wish I'd known this years ago. While you're doing the heart-focused breathing, on the in-breath, breathe in a feeling of inner stillness. Consciously breathe inner stillness into that complex emotional system, right? Because that emotional system is running the show. And for most of us, it's the mind that's activating that system and causing the choppy waves in the system. So doing that breathing a feeling of inner peace or stillness, right? And then just be quiet and listen for the inner voice, the inner rhythms. And that's how we start to become more aware. Remember, I was talking about the energetic level, which is where emotions or triggers really start at. Because once we get onto them there, Dave, we start feeling them. We can kind of turn them around at that energetic level. Once they get into the physiology, it's a lot harder. Because there go the hormones. They've already been released. And there's the knot in the stomach and the tension in the shoulders.
I'm trying to find words for this, and I want to ask you about this. I found that after I got used to having this state, if I am dysregulated, now I'm aware that I'm dysregulated, which is cool. But all I have to do is remember that I have that state. Let me just look for it, and then it's there again. It doesn't require nearly as much effort as it used to.
Well, you have a new baseline.
Yeah.
That's that new baseline I've been talking about.
It works. It's powerful. And in terms of getting the cost down, I think it was $400 or $500 back when I started working with this. And money was worth a lot more back then than it is now. So you've taken the cost down. You have. Yeah.
Well, that was the first ever system that we actually invented the HRV, first app ever. HRV was done.
And you have impeccable data. I mean, the lengths you've gone to, 10 million sessions and global field measurements. It's very hard to argue with the body of research that you've accumulated over the last couple decades. Yeah. So there may be further improvements to be made, but I don't think any rational actor could take a look at this and go, there's nothing there. And all I really care about for any consciousness improvement is what's the return on investment of time and effort. And this is 5 or 10 minutes a day, maybe 20 when you get up there for a few weeks. And then you're less of a dick for the rest of your life. That happened to me.
Yeah, it's not like after 4 weeks you stop.
No.
I mean, you still want to – I still start the day 30 years later.
Yeah.
I still start the day making sure I get coherent.
But do you use the sensor every day to do that?
I use it most nights when I do it. I don't necessarily do it in the mornings,
I gave my
it keeps me honest because because I know in the like Aura Ring and Whoop and so on, you're tracking basically RMSSD across the night, and it tells you what the waves were. how choppy or not. They'll tell you how choppy or not the waves were, how
Doesn't
much
give
the
you the
waves,
big
the
ones,
amplitude. And that can modulate it, but people need to cut themselves a break a little bit there too, because a lot can affect that. That isn't what you necessarily think.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between measuring and training. Right?
Measuring is a far lower value than training and actively changing and becoming aware.
Yeah, but you can still get benefit. I'm not down on measuring.
Oh, they're both good.
I know you're right, because like if you get flu or something, your numbers will drop. If they 10% up and down, that's pretty normal.
Yeah, I had my sensor. I've had multiple sensors over there. So I gave 2 sensors ago. My daughter was here and I talked to her about this. And she said, "Oh yeah, I used to do that." I said, "Well, you turn 18, so you might want to do that again." She was, "Okay, can I have it?" All right. So I gave it to her, ordered another one. And then my girlfriend at the time was saying, all right. So I gave her that sensor. So I don't have a sensor right now, but I know how to do it. So I'll probably get another one because it's a good practice to do it.
I'd have one if I'd known that.
Well,
I just gave you one a couple months ago.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one that went to my girlfriend. Yeah. So what you can do is, you can pick them up on the HeartMath website and save money on it. They're not expensive. It's as easy for you to bring one to me as it is to buy it.
The awesome thing is that when you get, these are the best. In fact, there was a study published a few months ago that compared our sensor to a bunch of other ones, including medical grade ones. Blew them all away in terms of accuracy. It's
if you've had some time to do this right,
it's really done right, and it's a high resolution sensor. It's made for training, not just continuous measuring. But it does that really well.
And guys, it's heartmath.com/Dave. And you don't have to do this. It's not going to change my life if you do or don't. It will probably change yours, though.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just incredible wisdom. And of all the things you've learned, you've done a lot that's outside of just this. I would say you're a spiritual and consciousness pioneer here. What is the one piece of advice that you'd offer for listeners? Sum it all up.
Couple ways I can answer that. Actually, what I've finally gotten to in my own life, that the straightest line path to rapidly increasing my level of awareness and consciousness, that's what I think you're asking about, is to radiate love.
Oh, man.
And, I've been talking openly more about this, and even in scientific circles recently, because a lot of people, I think, are confused about love in a certain way.
Yeah.
So I've been talking about the frequency spectrum of love.
What is it?
Okay, so before I answer that, when I say frequency spectrum, well, that sounds like I'm going woo-woo or something.
You're pretty engineering focused.
I'm pretty engineering focused. You were getting at this a little while ago in the discussion when we were talking about the fields, right?
Yeah.
So when we put electrodes on the body to measure the electrocardiogram, let's say, or the head to measure the electroencephalogram, what's being measured is current flow.
Yes.
That's all that's being measured by electrodes. Okay? Current flow. Now, of course, the heart is measured in millivolts. The brain is measured in microvolts, 100 times greater, right? Whenever there's a flow of current, you create a magnetic field.
Correct.
Magnetic fields go through things.
They do indeed.
This is why cell phones work indoors. Okay? So we showed back in the 90s that the magnetic field of the heart is carrying information about our emotional states.
Yes.
Those patterns of information, this is measurable, spectrum analysis. You can watch them change as you change emotional states.
It's real science.
It's real science. They trace back to your heart rate variability pattern, the rhythm.
The song you're playing with your heart.
Exactly. There's a mathematical relationship. So now that we know that, knowing what your HRV pattern is, remember I said you spend a lifetime trying to understand this stuff, is exactly what we're feeding the field, the energetic field, that your nervous system, my nervous system is picking up on each other's right now.
Do you know the pattern of love? Is there a specific song?
Well, that's why I wanted to, before I answered that question, say that when I say the frequencies of love, I mean it literally. These are frequencies that we can measure in the fields we're radiating.
Wow. And we're measuring them with magnetic sensors.
Yeah. Magnetometers.
Wow.
So when you look at when we're in a heart rhythm coherent, that frequency spectrum is radically different than when somebody's feeling anxiety or frustration or irritation or getting triggered and so on. Right? And we're broadcasting that. So what we feel inside doesn't stop at the skin, Dave.
Yep.
This is literal. This is science.
It's very literal.
And it's affecting others in a measurable way.
That's why you don't want to hate on other people. It's not good for you or them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a long answer to your question. But one of the things one of my calls to action is to pause as often as you can remember to do it throughout the day.
To do coherent breathing.
Yeah. Well, first ask yourself, what am I feeding the field? What's the vibration I'm feeding the field?
Yeah.
And if it is maybe under the radar levels of anxiety or maybe some fears.
Or envy or jealousy. Exactly. Any of the seven deadly
of that
sins.
Lower frequency stuff. Do some heart focused breathing. Breathe that feeling. Right now, the spectrum of love. It's an octave. Compassion. Am I expending compassionate latitude to someone because they cut me off in traffic because I really don't know what their day's like?
Correct.
Or that person who said the thing sideways in a meeting because I probably did it last week.
Yep.
Or will do it next week.
Forgiveness mixed in.
Yeah, forgiveness.
Yeah. You're starting to sound like you've been to 40 years of Zen, even though you haven't.
That's another one of those frequencies of love.
Yeah.
Appreciation, gratitude. Patience is a super big one.
Yeah.
That just eats our energy and takes us in the choppy seas and the internal systems. Breathe a feeling of heart-focused breathing, but then breathe patience.
So can you measure love versus compassion versus patience in the shape of a field?
You can see subtle differences in the field, yeah.
That's
why I can say the frequencies, the love spectrum.
I've got some of that mapped out with brainwaves, but I haven't mapped those out with heart stuff the way you have. But those are real signals.
Yeah.
And they're trainable, both in the heart and the brain. And when you learn how to do it, you can hug someone and it'll change them. Yeah. Right?
Well, when you're talking about dating, imagine if you're with someone, once you understand that we have an energetic magnetic field is a very real.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how do I know this? I can measure it. Right? I can put a probe out here and every time measure this field. It's not, I'm not talking about auras and things. I'm talking about magnetics. So if you are around somebody that's radiating a coherent signal, even unconsciously, and most is unconscious for most people until we do some self-awareness training, right? You naturally feel whether it's attracted, if it's a date maybe, or safer, or more trusting, right? If it's you can't fake it.
Exactly. It's congruence. And heavily meditated, I wrote about congruence. It's that inner state matches your outer state.
Yeah. And if your feelings aren't matching what you're saying.
Oh, people know.
Oh, boy, that creates a mixed signal that we quickly, unconsciously pick up on and let me get the heck out of here,
I remember the first party I went to when I moved to Austin a few years ago. I hugged someone I just met, a woman at a party. She was maybe 28, 29, just, hi, nice to meet you. And she stops. She goes, what did you just do? And I'm like, my hands are up. I have no idea what's going on here. And she said, no, that hug was different. I felt something. I'm like, well, you really want to know what I did? And she said, yeah. I said, all right. I said, I'm not being creepy at all here, but you need to sit so your heart's right against mine where the field strength is strongest. And I'm going to do heart coherent breathing. I'm going to show it to you. Right. And I taught it to her and she just, something shifted. And I'm not saying this to say I'm powerful. I'm saying this to say this technique is real and it works. And magnetic fields are stronger. They drop off at a cube of distance. So you put someone's heart right up against yours and you do this, they're going to feel it. And I had done that when I hugged her. I always do that when I hug someone.
Yeah, you don't even have to hug to feel it.
No, it's just stronger when you're closer.
Yeah, exactly. When we've done experiments in the lab, though, people 5-6 feet apart.
You can do it across the world if you're not.
Yeah, but I mean, even within the field mediated. And interestingly, we just got back in the 90s experiments where we're measuring brain waves and heartbeats and different people in a room together interacting. So I had this hypothesis that I was totally wrong, by the way, that I am coherent, I am radiating coherent fields, I am all powerful, people will synchronize to me, right?
Yeah. It doesn't look like that?
No,
tell me more.
It was completely wrong.
Yeah. So
so being coherent is a stable system. What it actually did, out of that stability came another level of sensitivity. So if you're in a coherent state, your brain waves are actually synchronizing to the other person's heart.
Wow.
So now you've got access to the energetic information.
You can read their field.
But yet you're stable because you're in that stable state, so you're not knocked out of coherence.
You don't pick up their incoherent heart rate. So, wow, this is a lot of that intuitive sensing of other people. You're explaining it with real hard science.
Yeah.
Bro, and this is incredible work. And in the last couple of decades since I first was blown away in our first conversation, God, you've taken this field so far. It is truly impressive. And it's this is the actual state that we live in, the environment we live in. And it isn't obvious from our human senses, but it is detectable with science and with our senses if they're trained. And you make a $250 device without the discount that does it.
Lifetime access to the app.
Oh, it comes really?
You get lifetime access.
You've dropped it.
You get the sensor. I mean, it's
okay.
It's a silly.
You've made it a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
We've got to wind up. So guys, heartmath.com/Dave. And this is worth it. I would encourage you to do it. And if you do it with someone else. Like give one to your boyfriend or girlfriend, or just do it for yourself and then have them do it while you sit with them. You will change yourself and you'll change the stuff around you when you do it. It's important. Yeah. So thank you, Rollin. I'm really always blown away by our conversations, whether they're on the air or not.
Me too. Thanks, Dave.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.